Hello everyone, what's up? Welcome back to episode 4 of OutCast. Fuck, I can't believe I mispronounced my own podcast. That's so sick. Alright, anyway. Hi, my name is Vishnu Kaushal. If you do not know me, if you're new here, hello, what's up? Hope you're doing super well. This is Greta.
Oh no, I'm on the show. I'm so nervous. Usually I'm a one-man show. Now I'm in someone else's
you're
show.
on the Oprah Winfrey show.
Oh my god, that is what you know. It's actually on my dream board. I'm on a Vishnu Kaushal show. What an honor. Hi guys, thank you so much for having me here.
I am super excited for what we're about to talk right now because what we're about to talk is very different from what we've talked on this podcast isse pehle. So, Greta, if you want to go ahead and introduce yourself first and just, just give them a little titsy-bitsy about yourself, so that'd be great.
That's awkward. Okay. By the way, do you edit your podcast or you just put raw?
Yeah.
Okay, wow, okay. There's no cuts, damn. That's pressure. Okay, so my name is Greta Tigras and I am also a YouTube content creator. By profession, I am also a yoga teacher, yoga/meditation mindfulness teacher. And yeah, I guess that's who I am. Profession-wise, of course, I'm much more than that, but that's what I do for life.
So Greta and I, we connected through Instagram, and it's been quite a journey since then because we've had like really cool conversations about a lot of stuff. And that's something that we're gonna dig deep into today. We're gonna talk about religion. We're gonna talk about spirituality. We're gonna talk about Hinduism in specific as well. And we're not gonna talk about you should do prayers and you should do this and stuff like that. We're just gonna talk about it objectively as like a third person and see from like an outer perspective. So myself, I'm not a religious person, right? I'm still somewhere. I'm still trying to figure out. I think most of the youth in this country are still figuring out if they feel anything spiritually or not, or whatever that shit is, right?
Yes.
And you seem to have, I wouldn't say mastered it, but for yourself, you've implemented sort of you have that kind of lifestyle, which is
9, 1,
a phone call.
8,
Sorry.
7,
Okay,
3, 5,
Yes.
6,
Oh my god, I'm
What?
disconnected. I'm sorry.
oh, 5.
I don't know. Okay. The citizen silent. Okay.
Alright, great.
Done.
Awesome. Yeah.
Sorry about that.
So,
Yeah.
before we go on, if you're watching this on YouTube, that's that. But if you can also watch it on all the podcast streaming platforms. You can also listen to it on all the podcast streaming platforms as well, which means Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Castbox, and all the other platforms. I don't even know get the So that's that. Anyway, so we're gonna start. We're gonna just talk about you, and we're gonna just start from the very beginning, right? You were born in Lithuania.
Yes.
And now I know that country. I couldn't pronounce it for the 2 or 3 months that I knew you. Lithuania. But now. So you were born in Lithuania, and just tell me, how was it growing up there? What was it about? What's the thing?
So, for those of you who don't know Lithuania, it's a small country in Eastern Europe. So, we've been under Soviet occupation. I did not grow up under the Soviet Union, but my parents did. So, even when I was growing up as a kid, they were still kind of very much like a post-Soviet Union kind of mindset.
But they were pro-Soviet Union?
Pro means they were for?
Yeah.
No, we were occupied by Russians, so Lithuanians not particularly liked it because Russian people, not the Russian people, but the government, they tried to diminish our language, that our language was forbidden, and people were killed in masses and taken down to Siberia against their own wish. So there was a lot of repression going on, so people were very conditioned. So I think, there are actually, a lot of similarities I find between Indian people and my own parents and the way I was raised up. Obviously, my generation of people are totally different. You know, now the people travel freely across Europe and like that. But when my parents were growing up, they were actually very difficult to leave the country. So you were only allowed to travel within the Soviet Union countries. So the all information that was allowed, all the books, everything was very controlled. Okay, so everything was very filtered. So there was no like really freedom of speech or thought. So there was a lot of this, how to say, you know, very conservative outlook on everything. So I was raised still a lot with that, you know, attitude going on. So I guess I find something similar because, you know, I find that Indian, your culture is as well a little bit, you know, especially Indian parents are very strict, you know, with your culture, and people like to keep things that the way, you know, they should be, and there's not much freedom. Now, of course, I guess you and this younger generation I can see in India, they're changing, you know, and people have open thought, and, you know, you guys look up more to, like, you know, Americans and Europeans, and there's this assimilation between cultures going on. But if you look at, like, older generation Indians, they are, like, very much, like, how to say, you know, we should do it this way and not any other way. So, yeah, in that sense, it was kind of similar growing up in Lithuania. Sorry, I talk so much. I think this podcast is going to be just me talking now.
I think that's exactly what podcasts are for. This is very interesting because I have been like reading and learning about Soviet Union is one of my key interests, and it's like on my to-do list. Like someday soon, I really want to understand like what happened there. If I'm not wrong, it was a communist state, right?
Yes.
So Soviet Union was a communist state, and Stalin was the. Was he there when your parents were growing up?
To be honest, I was not very passionate about history in school. So I mean, I did learn for that time, but I mean, I don't want to be. I'm not like a history specialist. I think that what you're saying is correct, but I don't want to. I cannot not very much into politics.
I guess a lot of people died. I think a lot of people were massacred.
Especially intellectual people, because you know, they tried to take. I mean, even in my school, some of my classmates, even their family members, you know, were taken down to Siberia. So Siberia was like a almost unlivable climate place deep far away in Russia, where it's very, very cold. So, and they were just packing people up in a train, and a lot of people would just die on the way to Russia and Siberia. But they were especially targeting the intellectual people, the people who were teaching in universities, you know, like this. So
but it's so crazy that it's like it was literally like not that long ago. It was literally 50, 60 years back.
You know, we had like, you know, nowadays there's drug dealers, we had book dealers. So there were people who are actually trafficking books secretly, because you would get killed if somebody found you carrying Lithuanian books. So, you know, everything was only in Russian. So even if you wanted to get any kind of job, you must speak only Russian. If you would speak publicly, you know, especially when you speak Hindi and you get killed, like you have to speak different language right now. So it was like really intense times. So I did not witness that, but even when I, you know, how to say, you know, when my brother was born, you know, there was still all this like, you know, fight for freedom, and how to say, it was tanks, you know, crushing people, and like, pretty intense, So I mean, people are now recovering, and how to say, now there's, how to say, you can definitely feel like, especially I'm from a capital city, so, you know, now things are totally different. You know, people are freely traveling across Europe, and people coming to study from Europe, and, you know, how to say, it's chill now. But there's still a lot of that like Soviet Union mentality going on, that you should not, you know, look too much different, you should not think too much different, because you don't want to attract too much attention, because attention equals trouble, right? So people very much tend to, you know, follow the system, and, you know,
I think that's a pretty conventional thing all across the
world,
right? Because, I mean, especially in India, if you see it, like, do not do anything that takes you to a point of risk. And that's like embedded in us, because us Indians as well, a lot of colonial people who colonized people who they went through this series of repression and operation that they can't really take that risk and stuff like that. But when you did grow up, what made you come to India? Like, what was that? What clicked, or what was it like? What was that journey like?
So that's a not very, how to say, I don't think I have a straightforward answer to this, because my life has been quite a journey. So when I moved out, actually from Lithuania, I went to study. I went to study to London in the United Kingdom. So it's actually, I studied philosophy, which is something that we also connected because you also were passionate about philosophy. So that's why I went to study to UK. So I lived there for 3 or 4 years. And then
you decided to come to India.
Yeah, so actually, you know, the main reason for me coming to India was obviously because my passion for yoga and meditation.
Wait.
Yes.
Slow down. I want to know, like, where did that passion come from?
Yeah.
How did you know? How did you come to know about it?
Yeah.
What happened in London and whatever, like that?
So actually, everything started in Lithuania. You know, even like now, yoga and meditation is like a trendy thing. You know, even in Europe, everyone knows yoga. Everyone tried or did yoga meditation. It's like a hip thing. But let's say going back, you know, I'm gonna be 25 now, so that is like 10 years, almost 10 years back. If you go back to Lithuania, I mean, yeah, things were happening, but there was like, I've never met anyone growing up who's been to India. Nobody talks about India, like there's no, like, I mean, maybe there were people doing yoga, but I certainly didn't know anyone who was into yoga or doing yoga. So I definitely think that it's something to do with my past lives. But then when I was like 16 or 17, I was quite depressed, and obviously teenage years, you know. So then I met this guy. I mean, I kind of low-key liked him. So he was like saying he's doing this Vipassana meditation course, and I thought like it was the first person that I ever met in the whole Lithuania. Okay, like, you know, Lithuanians are very conservative people, and like, you know, how to say, mostly people are Christian, you know, and just like a whole yoga meditation thing is really far out for most of Lithuanians, even up till now. But I guess now more and more people getting into it. So then he was saying about this meditation course, so I got like really interested. I was like, what is this? So then I found this meditation course, the Vipassana course. So I had to actually get permission of my parents because I was underage. So when I was 17, I attended this 11 days in silence meditation course in Lithuania. So this is run by last teacher is S.N. Goenka. So he's an Indian person, if I'm not wrong. But they have centers across the world. So the meditation principle is the same. It's like a Buddhist sort of meditation. So this is actually what got me on the path of yoga, but it started more from like a meditation and just looking for a relief and peace of mind sense.
What did you really learn from that level? I mean, you're pretty young by then. I guess you're 17. You're 17. You go into Vipassana, which is like which is the shit.
It's intense.
It's the shit, you know. It's like
I was the youngest person there.
It's not like meditating 10 minutes in your bed.
No.
It's like
10 hours a day, non-stop. 10
hours a day. You can't speak.
No books, no phone, no speaking, no music, no running, no exercise, nothing. Just meditation.
For 11 days.
11
and
days.
You're 17.
Yes.
I want to know about that.
Yeah.
How did that go? What kind of impact did it have on you? Did it have any
impact?
Yeah,
of course. So, you know, going back that time, actually, I have very clouded sort of memories. You know, now when I look back at that age of myself, I sort of feel like it wasn't me. You know, I cannot relate to that person. I was very suicidal, very much from like maybe year 13, age of 13, 12. I mean, I just remember myself being depressed for the most part of my life, maybe all the way up until my 20s, you know. Like really, really depressed, and you know, I was self-harming myself. I mean, obviously, I don't want to go too much into this no self-pity party, but you know, I had you know, my family was a little bit dysfunctional, and I had a difficult time fitting in school, and you know, with other kids and all. So I felt like very much disconnected. So from a very young age, I was really thinking a lot about suicide. Actually, I felt like, you know, I just didn't want it to be here. So at the age of 17, I was at a point where I was like, I just cannot live with myself anymore. Like, either something has to change, or I was ready to end my life. So at that point, I guess I was just like, you know, ready to try anything, you know. And then when I went to this meditation course, you know, the whole philosophy, what they're teaching is basically that, you know, everything is temporary.
This is before you go to London, right?
Yes, this is where I was still in school, you know. So they teach the whole philosophy that, you know, everything is temporary. So, you know, and they teach kind of how to be more in control of your emotions, how to not to react and act on every single thought and emotion. And at that time, I was just a mess, you know, hot mess, everything, you know. Boiling in me. So I think what it helped me, it gave me a glimpse into some kind of relief from that pain. You know, and the whole idea of Buddhism is that you can just like, free yourself from the samsara, the cycle of life. You know, if you get enlightenment. So I was like, wow, there's a way to like commit permanent suicide. I was like, that sounds like what I want. I was like, I'm ready. I'm gonna just meditate, and I'm not coming back anymore to this world ever again.
What I want to know for a person who's like a really layman, right?
Yeah.
For someone like me, like a dumb fuck like me,
You're not dumb.
right? But like for someone sitting at home who doesn't really get meditation, like someone who's sitting at home who's tried it 3 times, 5 times, he doesn't relate to Vipassana at all. Right? I've read about it, so I can still understand, right?
Yeah.
I have a friend who went through this crazy journey of doing this Vipassana thing, and then he ended up staying there for a really long while and all that stuff. But a lot of people don't understand that. So I want to really know, like, what was it for a 17-year-old girl who was going through a lot mentally? Because that's quite a shift. I mean, if you're born in India and you go to that Vipassana, that's like that's your culture. You're still playing within your culture, right? You're a Christian in a conservative Christian society.
Yeah.
Then you go to meditation. It's like for a Hindu Indian to go to a Catholic church and be there. What the fuck?
Yeah.
So I want to know, like, what is, like, when you woke up, what was it like? When you, on the first day, on the last day, what was it like?
Talking about what you just said, actually, even when I came back after the course, back to school, most of my classmates did see significant change in me. I was much more peaceful and much more loving. And, people thought that I got into some kind of secta. People were seriously worried about me and scared of me because, as you said, that was really a far out thing to do for someone still. And how our teenagers are, especially in school at that age, 16, 17, people are very judgmental, And here it is, girl who does not really fit in a class, and here she goes, disappears after 11 days, she's coming back all like enlightened. Obviously I didn't get enlightened or anything, but it definitely gave me a sense of peace, some kind of relief, from all the suffering that I was going through. So again, this course, I have to go deep back in my memories to remember how it was. First day, of course, the first, when they just do the gong and then there's that silence. That is itself a very powerful experience when when you're there with about 200 people actually around there, like 100, 200
And you can't
people.
talk to anyone at all.
And no one's talking, and you're not even allowed to exchange like eye contacts, no gestures or anything, There are people who are attending the course, so if you have any trouble, if you have, any questions, obviously you can go and speak to the teacher at prescribed time, or, if you have any difficulty, with anything, you can just go, but they advise you not to, but obviously you are allowed to speak to certain people if you need to, But other than that, there are like schedules. You can write down what time you're going to shower or what someone else is going to shower, And you're sharing the room with strangers. And what's the most amazing thing is that, you would think like how that many people in such a small space, how can people get along? But you actually realize that the problem that most people have is because of the communication, because we're not really listening what other person is saying. We hear whatever we want to hear, We have our program going in the head. And it doesn't matter what I'm going to say to you. If you feel, let's say you can say to me, oh, you're so beautiful, you're so amazing. But if I'm in my head, I'm convinced that I'm ugly and I'm worthless, doesn't matter what you're going to say. I'm going to create stories like that you're actually trying to get something and you're trying to, but maybe you're generally thinking that like I'm beautiful or nice or whatever. But that's what I'm trying to say. And it was an amazing experience in the sense that, you didn't have any fight with anyone, for 11 days. And people tell me, how you go 11 days silence? And I'm like, dude, that was like the best part. I would happily go into like silence anytime, but it's so difficult,
So that was your, I would guess that was your trigger sort of thing to have that inclination towards this kind of stuff, to your spiritual side of your life? Was it or was it not?
Obviously that definitely pushed me further into exploring the whole subject of Eastern philosophy for sure. But as far as I remember myself from the very young days, I always had some kind of connection to mysticism and spirituality, I remember myself being a very little kid. I was convinced, I mean, maybe all the kids are, I don't know, that I had some kind of superpowers, you know, that I was like a white witch and I was here to help out other people. And I would, you know, even being a little kid, I was fascinated with all kind of animation things, with witches, anything to do with spells. And I would like, you know, mix little herbs at home and like make like different like spells, like to communicate to nature. Sorry, I switch on this. Speaker is dying. I would like, you know, there was kind of paranormal things happening in my house too. When I was little, I was talking to spirits, and I don't know, I just always had this connection. You know, I remember being a kid, I saw UFOs, and I mean, I don't know, it sounds really far out to people, but
that's like, I'm sure.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know.
When you're a kid, so there's another thing with memory.
Maybe it was my fantasy, you know, I don't know.
There's another thing with memory, and it's like, oh hi. That's Simba. No, that's Shana. Alright. So the thing with memory is that every time you tell your memory to someone, you change it a little bit.
Yeah.
Alright. So and that's like a.
Is it?
Yeah, it's a proven like that's how memory works. Because a memory isn't for you to remember stuff. That's not what memory is. Memory is for that you have an experience, and from that experience you're going to take an action in your present or your future, and that's why that memory is there, like biologically. It's not for you to remember, go back to anything like that. So when every time you tell your memory, or even when you make one tweak, you tell yourself that this was my memory, and that memory is sort of updated. And every time that happens, it's just it's kind of a really
for sure. You know, even now when I remember these things as if they are like real memories, but like
exactly.
How to say, you know, I mean, this was such a long time ago. I cannot legit tell you if that's my child's fantasy. Is something that I wanted to believe? But I mean, the more to answer your question is like I was always a weird kid, okay? I was always drawn to some kind of spirituality, mysticism. Like, you know, when I was 10, I tried to astral project. I would like I would find, I don't know even how, where would I find all this information, you know? I think that at that time I had a computer already, you know? And I would just like, literally, I found the stuff about astral projection, and I would like sit in front of mirrors, staring in my eyes, trying to see my auras, and like, you know, I was always this kind of weird kid, so I feel like I've always been like that, but then how to say, at some age, I think I stopped believing that I had these magic powers, so I kind of given up on it a little bit. Then I got more into meditation, you know.
Nice. Yeah. But, okay, so then you go to London.
Yeah.
Then you take your majors in philosophy.
Yeah, so you know, I told you I was always a weird kid. I never wanted to pursue any career, you know. I've never saw myself like, you know, I was good at, like, I was in everything. I was into arts, I was like into sports, I did everything. I was really good at everything, you know. Anything that I would take on, I would be always the number one kid, you know. But I just never had any lasting interest in anything, you know. I'd just be like, okay, I'm good at this. Let's leave it. So then I was like, you know, I was very curious all the time, you know. So I was like, okay, maybe philosophy sounds like a little bit about everything, but also kind of about nothing.
But philosophy is, when you go to London, it's mostly Western philosophy and history, right?
I mean, it's just kind of general philosophy course. So, you know, they, you know, in BA and bachelor's, they touch a little bit on everything, you know, politics, ethics, you know, ancient Greek philosophy, like, you know, all the...
Like mostly, almost... Do they talk about Buddha or like stuff like that?
No, they didn't really touch much on Eastern philosophy. No.
So, okay, so let's jump to the Indian trip.
So meditation kind of stayed with me there. Okay, so I was obviously I was 17. After that, I tried to meditate, but that didn't last long. With all the year in university work, life sucked me back in. And again, I was back to my old self. You know, this time I got more into drugs. And that was my way of coping with stress. So before I was just a suicidal girl, very depressed, and you know, very, how to say, isolated from everyone. Later on, I moved to Europe, and I found out that there's such thing as drugs, and that they make me to kind of come out of my shell, and I found myself able to connect with other people, you know, during these experiences. It sort of opened me up to something, and
what kind of psychedelics or?
I mean, psychedelics came into picture later. I think it started with you know, MDMA, like ecstasy. It's more standard than into other stimulant drugs and of course weed and nothing crazy.
No,
but I mean,
tell that to Indian parents, please. Nothing crazy, just like
I wasn't like taking drugs every day or something like that. I had a job, I was university and all, but I was living from a weekend to the weekend because that weekend when I would go out to a party, take something and dance and talk to other people, that was my self-healing, self-therapy sort of thing, And for some period of time it did it for me, but then it actually took me down, even deeper down in the hole than I was when I was a teenager, because drugs can also really mess up. So again, kids, we do not promote drug use on this channel, right?
Yeah.
So we're just sharing educational information so you learn from our mistakes and you don't do the same things. So then I came to a point as well where drugs just didn't do it for me anymore. And that is where psychedelics came into my life, and I had my Satori type of enlightenment experience where I...
What was your first psychedelic experience?
Yeah, so this was, I was 21, I believe. And this is when I first took LSD. So I took it with my best friend. And mind that LSD, I came to know about LSD also in Lithuania. And like, I swear God to you, nobody had LSD in Lithuania, okay? Like, in general, drugs are not a big thing in my country. People are more into drinking. So drugs were not a big thing, but me and my friend by accident ended up going to, we have this cinema spring which happens every year in Lithuania. So they show like a low budget films, like not commercial films. So there was a documentary about Albert Hoffman. He is the guy, the scientist who accidentally invented LSD. He was researching some medicine for some kind of disease and he accidentally dropped a drop of lysergic on himself, and he was the person in the first person in the history to have a psychedelic trip. So then I watched that documentary, and there were so many intellectual people, like psychiatrists and different people saying how this one experience changed their entire life. People talking about overcoming depression, that suicidal patients, like terminal patients. After the psychedelic experience, they're not scared of death anymore. And that somehow linked to me in my head with what I've heard in Buddhism, the whole enlightenment experience. It sounded like it was like a shortcut, like a glimpse into what they talk about in Eastern religion, about...
It's in Bible as well.
Yeah.
The whole idea of like, I don't know, which character or which mythological person stepped on a bush, I guess, came across a bush.
Oh, burning bush.
Moses, yeah. So, and that's when he got enlightened or something.
Yeah.
So, motherfucker.
So definitely, coming back to LSD, like, I knew what it was. So for me, I met a lot of people who took acid and, I would not say they were spiritual people. When I asked them about their experiences, they told me, actually, the guy who got me the first acid trip, he was my ex-boyfriend. He was this kind of hippie, And I said to him, what is it like? What was your experience like? Because I had very high hopes for this, I thought I'm going to get enlightened or something. And he was like, you just see his Lego faces and, some kind of geometric patterns. And, I mean, I heard a lot of people just, thinking this going to a party. And, I met so many people who did it and they never had any life-changing experience. So I was like, okay, this is interesting. How come it affects, certain people, it changes their life, and for other people it's just like a fun party drug. So then, obviously I didn't take this lightly, I had researched a lot. In general, I'm a very geeky person. So when it comes to like anything, I like to know everything. So as well with drugs, I'm like a drug nerd. I like to know how it works, what does it do to my body, how does it affect my brain, what is the damages, what are the benefits, and all these things. So again, I did a lot of research before I took acid, so I didn't take it for fun. I was looking for answers, I was always very philosophical, like mind like yours, I always wanted to know why things are like this and what is the purpose to this life. Ever since I was a kid, I was always questioning this universe, why am I here, what does this life means, why, what am I doing, what I'm supposed to do with my life.
That's a dead end.
Yeah, and I was so lost in my head because that's the problem. That's why I also went to meditation and, I had all these psychological problems because I would remember myself, I would never be able to sleep, you know, I would just stay up at night thinking and thinking and overthinking and thinking and thinking and thinking. So meditation was the only way for me to...
But how was the first LSD experience? Like, what was it like?
So,
what did you see?
Yeah.
How did you get in?
So, I actually made a video on my channel, so I can add you the link so people,
It's yours.
can add, you know, if you want to hear a detailed story, but I'm just going to keep it very short.
Yeah.
So, obviously we went into experience totally like open-minded, you know, without any expectations. We were actually very scared and nervous, you know, because we were thinking we're gonna hallucinate and see like maybe some dragons or something which is not there. And I heard people even committing suicide because they're scared or something.
Not just scared, like people, I've heard stories like people think that they're a bird and stuff, and then they jump off the roof thinking they're birds.
So I heard a lot of these kind of stories too, you know, so I was obviously very scared, you know, about this experience. So that's why I said I did a lot of research and preparation, you know, I was reading vlogs and forums and chats of people giving tips, making videos, you know, tips before your first trip and things like that. So I was like really prepared for my experience. But again, at the same time, I did it with my best friend in my own home, so I felt very safe and calm in the environment. And you know, if anyone there thinking to do it, I highly recommend you to, you know, get someone to look after you. You know, like you don't do this lightly, you don't do it somewhere in a party or you know how to say. It's a new experience. It's unexplored territory, so you should be, you know, mindful and careful about it. So yeah, so you know, it all started like everything just kind of started to seem more vivid and more bright, like very HD sort of, you know, as if somebody put like some ultra 4K filter, you know, suddenly everything was so vibrant and alive. And me and my best friend, we remember just kind of like, you know, observing everything and sort of feeling like a little child, you know, you feel like you're seeing everything for the first time. You know, and we are here 21 years old and, you know, you feel like everything's boring already and, you know, you've been here around and blah. But then suddenly you're having this experience and, you know, your thought process is somewhat different. It's kind of very introspective and it's not, LSD is not really hallucinogenic. Like, you don't really see anything which is not there. You're not going to see like little elves running around or like anything like that. But it's more mental, it's more like it changes your perception. And what they did, like scientists when they did research, you know, on the brain and the effects on it, what they saw is that the parts of the brain that don't usually communicate with each other, they start to communicate. So your whole brain starts to light up like a light bulb, you know. So for example, people have these experiences where they can like see the sound or smell the colors, you know, there's a synthesis. So it's like sort of your brain from goes like, I don't know, functioning like, I don't know, how many brains we're using? We're using very low, right? What is
1 or 3%.
Yeah, so imagine from 3% maybe your brain goes to like, let's say 40. I don't want to exaggerate or whatever, but like imagine you're just like, if you saw this movie Limitless, right? So where the guy takes this thing and his just brains works amazing. So it's sort of like that, you know, it just makes these connections in your brain which were not there before. And suddenly, you know, basically what happened, so we were feeling comfortable at home, we're giggly and all this, and we were like, let's go to the park, let's see the nature. And this is nighttime, it's very calm, it's not like India, okay, it's very beautiful, England, green, beautiful park, no people, no trash, and everything like very, you know, like
people are offended by this. Even though it's true, people are offended.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to be offended, but I mean like, when you're tripping, like on LSD, everything is very graphic and in your eyes, you know? So any kind of even little mess can look like a giant mess. So, you know, like, I mean, I don't know if I would like to go in the mystery strip.
Please, fuck no.
But there was like what I'm trying to say was very nice, beautiful, like nature, like environment. I'm sorry, I don't mean to say anything bad about India.
If you go on a trip and you go to Indian parks, people will come like, Madam, madam. You don't get that. You didn't get that because I was...
Okay. So basically we just went to the park and what happened, I had this feeling as if I was leaving my body, okay, like I felt like not, you know, now I feel very physical, like very heavy, but during that experience I felt like as if I was just spirit, you know, like as if my body were not, like, it's kind of transcended, you know. And everything seems like very holographic, and you know, the more you get higher into a trip, I started to see this geometrical pattern overlaying everything. And what I saw was this pattern of flower of life. So it's actually on my back, so I can show it to people. This pattern of like circles.
I want to see it as well.
So I never heard about this before, okay, ever in my life. I've never seen this, I never heard about this, and bear in me, I'm not alone, I'm with my best friend, and we're both seeing the same thing. So these kind of circles, and they're like, wherever we look, like it's like this, like it's normal room, like as if you see me now, but imagine there's like additional layer, you know, like you would add with Photoshop or something, like these, and they're in all chakra colors, okay? And it's kind of this pattern that is like everything. And then suddenly, it just like, it was like this, the only way I can explain to you is that I felt like, you know, I felt like I was looking for a pen for 20 years of my life, and it was just behind my ear, you know? And I cried, and I've gone through so much pain, tried to kill myself, and everything, you know? So, my life was so short, it was so intense, and I felt like, all of that was just my imagination. Like, it was totally self-inflicted pain. You know what I mean? It was just... I felt for the first time in my life, I felt like I was not just one person here left to suffer. By the way, at that point, I was an atheist, okay? So I did not believe in God because my thought process was that if I'm going through so much pain and suffering, there's no way that there can be God because the life is just too cruel for there to be anything higher. I felt like, you know, this life is just pure suffering, you know. I felt like, what can be good? What kind of creator can create this kind of thing, you know? He must be demonic or a devil, you know, devil. So, at that time I was an atheist, you know, and I always felt like I was alone, I always felt like I didn't fit in, and all these things, and that night...
When you were in that park, you seeing all these other... When that trip ended, right? That moment of normalcy, that moment of sanity, like when things fall back. How do you recollect what you've seen and stuff like that? And how do you react to that going forward?
So that's an interesting fact because, you know, me and my friend, my best friend, we're still friends. That night has changed our life forever. Honestly, I mean, I've never been the same. Over that night, I became vegetarian as well. Like I stopped eating meat completely, and I felt like that trip had never ended. I feel like I'm still on the same trip. I mean, obviously, I don't see things like in geometrical patterns and all, but I feel like I'm still very much on that trip. I feel like that night I was born. You know, I celebrate that day. We and my friend, we still celebrate that day as our birthday. You know, rebirth. I feel like that was the point of my spiritual awakening, you know, and ever since then, you know, I mean, that trip actually made me realize that there are no shortcuts, you know. I mean, there are escape, you can find an escape, you know, temporary escape, relief or anything, but if you want to live in this higher state of consciousness, there's no shortcut. You know, nobody can come and do it for you, you know, like people looking for some guru or somebody who can just touch them and, you know, it's done. Or they can take some kind of drug and it's done, you know. People want a quick experience, you know. People don't want to invest time, they just want to have it all, you know, in 1 second. And when it comes to anything, you know, not just spiritual life, but even, you know, the money, material wealth, success, anything, you know. I see most of people, they don't want to do anything, they just want things to happen. You know, and I was the same kind of person, you know, I was not doing anything, you know, I was just living in the same victim mentality, conditioning that, you know, life is bad, everything is bad, I'm just here alone suffering, and blah. And that night helped me to realize that, you know, how to stay as much as I can run away from it. You know, it's up to me, and I realized that meditation or yoga is the way to get there, to that state permanently.
Before you did this, before you took your first psychedelic trip, were you practicing meditation like regularly or like sporadically or sometimes?
I say sporadically, like, you know, definitely was not like a regular practice. I mean, it was kind of on and off, you know.
After the trip, what all things changed, as in, not changed as in changed, I changed my thought process, that's something that happens every day without psychedelic trips. But what are the things that changed in your lifestyle drastically? For example, eating meat. You stopped eating meat.
Okay, so that time, So coming back to the same question when the trip ended and all. So I felt like obviously the effects, like really, I was really in some altered state for maybe good 2 weeks, if not month. Okay, like we were totally, and everyone saw this change. Like it was not just like, how to say, my perception or anything. Our friends and family, everyone was scared. Okay, because we were, okay, back in that time, 21 years old, me and my best friend, we were just working in a top shop, like, you know, retail store. We're just like party girls. We go to techno parties every weekend, taking loads of drugs, you know, partying 3 days a week, you know, just like getting high, having fun, you know, very superficial girls, you know, nothing deep about our life, in particular, eating meat and, you know, just normal people, you know. And then bam, overnight, you know, next weekend we come to friends' party, same crew that we used to party with, you know, everyone take loads of drugs and everything. We are just like in an enlightened state. None of us need drugs. We don't want drugs anymore. We don't need anything. We're just blissfully, ecstatically happy. We're dancing like hippies, you know. We're like taking some picture, drawing like mandalas. Stopped eating meat, and we were just like pure love, you know. We were like enlightened people, you know. Anyone come and we were like, oh, there's just love, you know, like you just to be happy. You know?
That must be so creepy for everyone else.
That was so scary, dude.
I mean,
like,
just
and
imagine,
it was too much, you know.
like someone like who just go partying for like the whole life, and they say, life is love. I love life. Life, lovely, flap, love. So that's scary.
Yeah, and you know, because as you said, there's so much propaganda actually about psychedelic drugs, you know, how to say there's so much, because that's all happened in the 70s, by the way. Okay, so a little backstory for anyone who's not very familiar with all this movement, psychedelic Beatles and all. So let's say going back to 70s, 60s, right? Again, very conservative mindset, war going on between Vietnam and this and that, and then bam, there's acid, and suddenly it's legal, and bam, this whole hippie movement and everyone taking acid. So what happened? Everybody stopped voting. You know, there were like, you know, you can watch loads of documentaries and films what was happening at 70s, you know. People were just peace and love, you know, nobody cared about politics, people were dropping out from work, nobody... People didn't want to like go in war or anything anymore, you know. Should we pause? Oh, no.
No, it's fine.
Hello.
Hi. What's up, man?
Good to see you.
So cool to see you. What's up?
Nice.
Can you try to be quiet? We're in another conversation.
I'm sorry.
No,
it's fine, it's fine.
But just try not to make too much noise. So yeah, so back in that time, going back in that time, so what happened is that suddenly everyone's like peace and love, and what they did is, you know, then they banned, because politicians, you know, they couldn't control people anymore, you know, there was no order anymore, because our society is built on slavery, you know, like you must finish school, then you go to university, then you get a job, then you go to vote, you know, everything is happening like this, right? And at that time, people were like going through some different spiritual awakening as well.
Is that the time around which Osho was a big deal as well?
I'm not sure in which years they were, but it was
I
happening
think it was
around I think Osho come a little bit later, maybe in the picture, because
80s?
at that time, yeah, maybe around
after the no, I think it was around the Vietnam War.
Because the first wave of hippies, you know, the Beatles and Jimi Hendrix and also then is the whole boom with the psychedelics. Then people started getting into yoga and meditation, and started people traveling from the West to India to look for gurus and all these kind of.
What was your trigger to come to India?
So yeah, so we come back to what we were talking about. So what I was saying about this, yeah, I'll get into this in a minute. Or what I was saying now about the psychedelics that
psychedelics with the friends, you were like your friends are creeping out because you were saying love life, live life, love without drinks.
So yeah, so you know we kind of really changed over that night and. Yeah, so I don't know, okay, let's see, we jump to topics. So what's the trigger? Okay, so fast forward, okay, that time, my spiritual awakening, I'm 21, still, then I started to take on meditation more seriously, okay? After that experience, psychedelic experience, I was like, okay, maybe just taking drugs and partying, you know, it's not gonna get me far in life. I was like, maybe I should start like, you know, meditating more regularly, because I started to have, after that psychedelic trip, I started to have a lot of synchronicities. I don't know if you heard about this, but there's a lot of people who are seeing double-digit numbers, and that's actually my channel actually kind of started also at that similar time after all my spiritual awakening, because I started to have a lot of, like, in general in life, I had a lot of different mystical experiences, but I felt like psychedelics have helped me to really overcome this depression, you know? It's really, you know, even though what was happening at that time, the 21 years, you know, I was still partying before psychedelics and all, I felt as if I was happy. But I was just, as I said, living just weekend to the weekend, you know? My only relief was drugs and parties, you know? And, I feel like that psychedelic trip have helped me to feel different, you know, it helped me to find connection in life, you know?
Was the meditation, the meditative process different after your psychedelics? Like, was it like, well, I mean, must have been different, but what kind of different? Like, did you see different things?
I mean, that's, again, like a very deep topic, because, again, I was meditating for many years now. I mean, it's been like, 7-8 years now of meditation.
But did you feel in a sort of ease?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, again, with meditation, it's like, you know, it's like gym or anything, you know, you go through periods of time when you just go into the gym and you're like, wow, what a great workout, you know, and you feel so pumped up to go gym. But then you go through periods where you're like, oh, dude, again, no, to gym. And then after a week, you're like, I don't want to go gym. And then for a month, you're feeling shit, eating crap, you know, and then you're like, oh, no, I need to go back to gym. And then again, it's hard. And then you're like, yay, gym, you know. So spiritual life is like that, you know, it's like a spiritual muscle that you're developing. So again, your diet, your lifestyle, you know, your meditation or whatever your spiritual practices are.
I'm gonna come to the whole idea of eating meat and
yeah. We can discuss that.
We should discuss that like in another 10 minutes. But I want to know what was the trigger to come to India first.
Yeah.
Like when did you decide that you'll?
Yeah.
2 questions.
Okay.
When did you decide you'll come to India just to? I think the first time you came to India was just to travel, right? So
that was just shortly after that psychedelic trip. I started to meditate more regularly. So I was meditating every single day, and through that I quit smoking. I started to make a lot of food changes. You know, I had a very strong intuitive feelings. You know, like kind of I started to feel like a sense of guidance in my life, like through these numbers and all. And I was going this. You know, I feel like the psychedelic trip kind of initiated my spiritual awakening, but I feel like after that, a lot of weird things started happening in my life, like mystical things, which I couldn't really understand. And what happened then is that I started getting more into yoga and meditation and actually reading books. And I found, like, all the experiences that I was going through in terms of meditation and different things, it was all in the yogic books. And for me, it was not like, you know, I read the book and then, oh, this is the kind of experience and I'm looking for that experience. But it was like, I had an experience. And then I found an explanation in an ancient book, you know? So I was like, okay, this is interesting stuff, okay? These yogis, they're talking about it and they know about this and they're not taking any of the stuff, you know? So I was like, there must be some more natural, organic way to have these experiences, you know? Because again, when you take psychedelics or something like this, you know, it's like, again, you're questioning, is this real? Is this not real? Is just my mind playing tricks? Was this a drug, you know? So yeah.
But the thing with psychedelics is also is that there's no science for psychedelics, so we don't know what happens when you take a psychedelic.
Yeah.
Like,
because it's a very taboo thing, because, you know, that's what I'm trying to say, that politics and the people who rule the world.
No, but like actual psychologists, like when we talk about like actual psychologists who have done studies in neuroscience and stuff like that, they don't 100% know what happens when you take a psychedelic.
But there was not much studies done, because...
Not till now.
Yeah.
Until now.
Yeah, up until now, because first of all, I mean, again, this is a conspiracy, whatever, you know, I mean, kind of going to conspiracies, but, you know, what we saw, you know, what happened in the 70s, this kind of mass awakening and boost of people looking, you know, for yoga, meditation, spirituality, some deeper meaning in life, that was actually caused by psychedelics, you know, the first wave of hippies, and kind of like it raised a new wave of thought for people. So I think that the power of these, I don't call them drugs, okay, I call them medicine, you know. So I think that, I'm sorry, I get distracted. So
you can come and say hi to everyone as well.
Sure.
So, like, obviously, I think that what these, you know, medicine do is that they open people's mind and they make people question, the system that we are born in and that we are raised to believe in, and all these things, people start to question this. And I think that is the reason why these things are not legal and they are forbidden, because I think that
want a lot of people questioning that.
It's not very favorable for politicians or people who rule the world for people to become very peace and loving and hippies, because maybe there would be no countries, no wars.
Chaos
you need some kind of, how to say, you need to keep people down. So what was your question? So coming back, how I came to India.
Come to India for the first time.
So I guess, so then I was meditating and going through these things, and I was like, I'm ready to go deeper. Like, I felt this calling to go India.
How old were you by then?
I think I was maybe 21. I think I was 21. I again went to Vipassana course.
In India?
In Bolga, in Bihar. So my first experience in India, was in Bihar, So I was really in shock, and actually my kind of viral video was my first vlog in India, where I found like a really good hotel according to booking.com, and that hotel room in the toilet had no window. And I just thought that, maybe this was because it's hot. It was really hot. I mean, I thought maybe this is kind of normal not to have windows. I mean, I kind of made a joke, but then I said something straight afterwards. I said, I'm having a cultural shock. But I didn't mean to say that, I have a cultural shock because of the window. I was just in general, of the trip from the airport to like Gaya's like train station area. I mean, it was very picturesque, Coming from London, I've never seen anything like that before in my life, So
why did you come to Bihar directly?
Because I was going to this, because the thing is that, I didn't want to go to India alone because of what they say on the internet, I was really scared. I was thinking that, the moment I get out of the airport, I'll be stabbed, killed, raped, and how to say, that's how people are portraying India. Even my parents, and a lot of people think that India is just like a deep village, and people don't understand. I mean, obviously, more educated people, more cultured people, they know, but a lot of people who don't have this interest in cultures or traveling or whatever, even my parents asked me some kind of questions that like this is medieval ages in here, Obviously it's underdeveloped country, but you guys, in the big cities you have everything, you have Starbucks, you have Burberry, you have anything you want.
But why did you choose to go to, how did you?
So basically I didn't want to go alone, and it was really expensive to come to India from Europe, and I was 21 years at that time in university, not from particularly very rich family or anything. So I was like, how do I convince my friends to come along with me? So I had a boyfriend at the time and the same best friend who we took acid with first time. So I was like, guys, we can go to this Vipassana course, meditation course, because my boyfriend at the time, he never tried. Me and her, we did one course before. So I was like, he can try this meditation course, and then we can travel for a little bit, and it's not gonna cost much. It's not gonna cost much, because we're going to this Vipassana course, and there was a reason to go there. Like, we're into Buddhism, we can see this place where Buddha got enlightened, and it's a good place to do meditation. So my friends were like, okay, for meditation we'll come, So that was the first time where I came here. I did like a little Buddhist pilgrimage trip, around the places that kind of Buddha traveled around. So that was my first experience in India. And then my first day, maybe second day in India, I was crying because I was like, I spent all my savings to come to this place. And I was scared to leave my hotel room, Everything was so spicy that I couldn't eat anything. I was so scared of it. Everyone's staring at us. We're the only white people in Gaia, Like, there's no other white people there. We were like, after reading everything on the net, I was scared to ask anything for anyone, because even if I was to ask where to buy water, because nothing to me looked like shop, In the West we have different shops, and here you guys have this little corner shops, and in Gaia, definitely there's no big market. So I felt like I cannot buy even water, because I was so scared reading on internet that people sell like bad fake water, and whoever I would ask anything, I felt like maybe these people just want to murder us and rob us. I was really, really, really scared the first time in India. And then I was like, I'm never coming back. I'm never coming back to this country ever again. Then fast forward 2 years later, again back in England, still doing yoga, still doing meditation. And then the guy that I was with at that time, relationship was not going great. And I was like, I was like, I just want to go travel, you know, I want to leave everything, I'm bored of the system, I'm bored of this, I mean, I don't even know what I'm doing.
It's after 2 years, right? You're 24.
Yeah, I finished university, you know, and everything, so I'm like, I never wanted any career, never was really into anything but yoga and meditation and mysticism. I was like, I need to go to like somewhere and like explore the world and just see what happens. I was like, I have nothing to lose. So then I was like, again, I didn't have much money. Then I found this volunteering opportunity in Goa in one yoga center. I thought like, okay, I'll go like learn yoga and, you know, just chill and see what it's like there.
Was it like to learn or was it to practice?
No, just to practice. Not to do teacher training course. So I didn't plan to become yoga teacher back then. But again, everything just happened to me. You know, I happened to meet my yoga teacher.
I took a little break because the card got full, and say hi to Obama.
Hey.
Yo, what's up?
Good to see you.
Yeah.
So we're back.
We were talking about you hating India and then
Yeah.
oh, you breaking up with your then boyfriend and then
So then I went to Goa and then you know I ended up becoming yoga teacher and you know it kind of again the way I became yoga teacher again, it was just sort of awakening. I told you I was meditating for quite some time, and one day after meditation I just opened my eyes and I was like, I need to become a yoga teacher. It was like some voice, you know, in my head, just like, you need to become a yoga teacher. I mean, I don't know what it was, but I just had this, I was like, okay, but I was not pursuing that, you know what I mean? I was just doing yoga, reading books, and doing all these things, and I ended up going to Goa. And then again, now about the Hinduism and all this thing, the religion, because I told you I was an atheist. I said, my religion is love, you know, I was like typical hippie, you know, just doing yoga, doing meditation, mindfulness meditation. But I was talking, like, after my LSD experiences, I felt like there was some kind of higher force, higher power, some kind of, I felt some kind of connection with universe, okay?
Let's talk about that.
Yeah. So then, you know, one day, this was like me breaking up after this relationship, thinking to go to Goa, to India, to, you know, for some time, to learn yoga, to go deeper. And I had this thought that I'm just curious to know, like, about, I mean, you know, I was just curious to know what is religion about, you know, like, because I never read Bible, I've never read anything about Hinduism, you know, I said, you know, my religion is love, and I was like, well, I'm just curious to know, you know, if people are so into it, I just want to be read, and to know what it is so I can be conversant about
for
it.
you to even be able to be at a point where you can negate or even just say that this does not exist, you should at least know about it.
Yeah. So then I just had this thought that like, okay, maybe I'm ready. I was like, I had this feeling that I was open to hear about God, what some religion says, what some culture says about their God. And I was going past this charity shop. So in England we have these charity shops where people give away things that they don't want anymore. So they sell it very cheaply for charity, you know, the money goes to charity. And I was working in this I was working in the different bakery shops. And in my break, I was going past this little charity shop. It was next to Buddhist Center. And I just had this intuition, like, calling to go in. And I went straight to the book section, and there was, like, spirituality section. And there was Bhagavad Gita, as it is, by Prabhupada, the ISKCON founder. And I've never heard about Krishna. I've never, like, I was into yoga and meditation all, but I've never heard the Bhagavad Gita, okay? And I just picked up that book, I looked at the cover, and I turned around on the other side, there was this Swami picture, and I was like, this seems like some kind of spiritual book on Hinduism, and I was like, let's take it. It was like 100 rupees, you know, it was like very cheap, £1 for like English cost, it was like nothing, pennies, you know. And I was like, okay, I'm going to India, I'll have time, might as well take it, you know. And then, then in Goa, I'm doing this teacher training course, and I started reading Gita. And, you know, I just kept reading it, and there was Maha Mantra, the Hare Krishna mantra. So I didn't know what is chanting or what to do with it. I mean, I didn't know anyone from any religion, okay? And I was like, okay, might as well try to sing, you know? When I was little, I wanted to be a singer. That was my dream. I wanted to be like Britney Spears, but I soon given up on that dream. Because in the church, when I went to church when I was little, they said I'm not good at singing. So I was like, okay, never mind, forget about this. So then, there was Maha Mantra. So after yoga meditation, I just chanted this Hare Krishna mantra in my own melody. And I burst in tears, you know, I was crying. I was like, felt like heart opened or something, you know, I was like, what is going on? And I was so in my country, people perceive Hare Krishna people like a secta, you know, it's like a really taboo thing. When I was 17, I saw them in the street singing and all, but people are really scared of Hare Krishna people, okay? Like, they think that this is some kind of cult, yeah. So I also did not have a good opinion about these Hare Krishna people. And here I am singing this Hare Krishna mantra. So what would I do? In Goa, you know, even in India, I'd close all the doors, all the windows, so nobody would hear. Because I was just so embarrassed that somebody will hear me singing like this mantra, they will think that I'm dumb. I was like, that time I was into Shiva more, like, because he was a yogi, and I was like, Shiva. So
and he let you do drugs and shit.
And I was into psychedelics and smoking weed, you know, I'm in Goa and
he's a cool man.
So I was really into Shiva and all, and then I started chanting, and then next thing I know, I started to eat prasad, you know, prasad on the beach. The Russian devotees were making this puri with paneer inside, and I didn't know it was prasad. I tried first time and I was like, what is this? This is like the best thing I ever tried. And I become hooked on it. So every time after 6 o'clock evening class in my yoga TTC, I would run to the beach looking for this Russian man with those puris because I was addicted to prasad. So I was reading Gita. I didn't know that these were Hare Krishna people, you know, and then I started seeing these Hare Krishna people. Above me was living Hare Krishna guy. One time he approached me and he said, oh, there's this festival happening, you should come. And I was still very shy about it. The whole singing thing was not for me. So I was trying to go to that festival, and I came to that temple and I saw them chanting and I ran away because I was so scared to go. I was like, no, it's not for me, I can't do it. So then I went back to London and I got my yoga teacher diploma. I finished Ayurvedic massage therapy. I was like, I'll start a new career now. So I went back to London and here I am teaching yoga, doing these massages and all, and then I was like, I just miss India. I was like, my heart is calling for India. It doesn't matter how much money I can make, how beautiful and clean this country is, and all these things. I was like, I just don't want to be here, you know. And
by now you're 24 or something.
Yeah, and then I was missing India so much. I just typed in Google Hindu temple, and guess where I ended up going? To ISKCON. And I didn't know that I'm reading the book from ISKCON. I was eating prasad. Like, I didn't know anything. I just ended up going to Aarti, and again everyone's singing, in London Temple in Soho Street. And again, this is like Hindu temple, you know, all white people and all that. There are some Indian people, but this Aarti, you know, like here in temples, like normal Aarti. For me, again, I was like, everyone's doing something. I'm so lost what was going on. Again, very, very uncomfortable. But when I went there first time, I came to reception and I was like, hi, it's my first time. Like, I don't know what is happening here. And they're like, welcome home, you know. And then I started talking, you know, after Aarti to people. And I just had this weird feeling that, like, I felt like I knew all these people, you know. I just had, like, they all seem very loving. Like, their eyes are just glowing and they're just very happy people.
There is this thing with religion. I think in religion in general, when they're very embracing of the fact when someone new wants to come in, like most of the religions at least, or like communities which are made from religion, they're very like adapting of the fact. But sometimes in some religions, when you want to go out or when you want to like maybe question it, then that becomes a problem. But yeah, I mean, I want to really talk about religion in general, like objectively, and not because that's something very questionable for me.
Again, bear in mind, you know how to say, because I feel like you guys in India here, you know, like, because this is your culture, as you say, and you were raised with this, you know, it's like, it's nothing new for you. It's like, you know, everyone's doing this, like, and everyone here knows Krishna. It's not like a new thing, you know, everyone do puja at home, like, more or less, you know, people's parents are more or less, like, still religious. But for me, this was something totally new. And again, like, in London, when I went first to the temple, again, these are all, like, people that are, like, hippies, you know. People are into, I mean, there are Indian people there, you know, how to say there are Indian community, but again, it's more, in general, London is very open, you know, it's like freedom of thought, freedom the way you dress, is totally free being gay. If you want to wear a wig and go in like miniskirt, it's totally fine, you know.
Do they have any restrictions in ISKCON temples for any
I mean, they're not super strict. I mean, sometimes people would come, obviously, if the first time they would come with big cleavage or something like that, but people are very tolerant, you know, but again, this is London and a lot of young people there. People are usually
tolerant about it, but like the authorities, that I'm not quite sure about. Like the people who are organizing that stuff, the people who run the temple kind of thing.
No, I mean, their standards, I mean, for people who live, I actually started going a lot to this temple, so most of my friends became soon Hare Krishna people, you know, and I actually met people from my own country, a lot of people who were also in the same temple. And then soon afterwards, I also ended up moving into the temple in Spain and in Amsterdam, and then I came back to India again. But in terms of the temples itself, like obviously they are more strict and all, but again, because these are Westerners and for them this is like a new thing. They cannot be super strict, they want to attract people and they want to welcome people. So it's not like, I found that whenever I went here to the temples, the vibe is totally different. You know what I mean? It's not the same. When I go to, Europe to the temple, it feels like home. You come into some kind of hippie community where everyone's on the same wave. Whereas here, when I come to the temple, it's also nice.
It's kind of a lifestyle. It's like
it's more like going to see Indian family, like it's not that cool, it's not that cool. But I mean, it's still nice. But yeah, you have to develop a love for this religion to like still, I just find that it's very different. The same. But again, this is Krishna consciousness and all. It's this Bhakti yoga.
What is Krishna consciousness?
So,
if you had to tell it to a layman.
So I read the whole Bhagavad Gita, by Prabhupada. Okay, there's many translations and all, but particular like ISKCON or whatever, it is not. I don't consider myself any religion. Like actually, it's not really Hindu or anything like that. Because even in the end of Gita, it says that it's non-sectarian and you can propagate any kind of religion and still follow Bhakti yoga. Because Bhakti yoga is just the direct process of attaining your love for God. It's just
what is that?
So it's just about.
Bhakti yoga.
Bhakti yoga, it's like a yoga of devotion. It's like more connecting to the feelings. It's more about having that connection with the higher force, in how to say, and for different people who can perceive it in different ways. God has many different names, let's say, or you can come into any form.
Right? What is Bhakti yoga technically? I mean, how do you go about it? Like, for someone who has no clue about it. Like, no clue about it, Bhakti and yoga are like two different things to that person.
Yeah.
So, what would you tell that person?
So, yoga means connection, right? So, again, there's different paths of yoga, okay? So, the same like there's many different religions, right? So, the goal of any religion is to have that love for God, to feel that connection. I mean, I say word God, but a lot of people, I see nowadays between young people, word God is very looked down on. Like, people see that, when you say God, it's like people start trying to put you into some kind of religion. But for me, the word God has nothing to do with any religion, how to say. Because, again, everyone should answer this question for themselves. What is God for you? What does that mean for you, So,
okay.
Yeah. So it's more about, yoga is more about connection, right? With some
but
higher...
is yoga different than Bhakti yoga?
I think that yoga, the highest form of yoga is when you come to the point of Bhakti, okay? If whatever yoga you're practicing, if it doesn't lead you to the point of Bhakti, then it's meaningless.
Can you define that?
Bhakti means love, right? I mean, what do you say? Bhakti is love,
But love is like pretty fucking huge term, right?
Yeah,
like,
but then when you think about it, right? I mean, I think that for me, God is love. I think that if...
Yeah, but I get that.
If you don't like the word, let's say for people who do not believe in God, right? As long as, Osho, I think he said that if you don't believe in God, it's okay. But if you don't believe in love, then your life is, how to say...
No. So, I want to look at this objectively without my biases, right?
Yeah,
so I want to, when I want to understand it, I come from a point where I don't believe in God is a different thing. I don't know if I believe in God. That's what I'm saying. I don't know yet, right? So what I want to know is like when you say bhakti, and then you say the highest form of yoga is bhakti, right? And bhakti is love. Now, where is that love directed to? Where is that love coming from, right? What is that kind of process? How do you explain that feeling? Which is, I'm very sure it's pretty hard to put it into words. I guess, but like people like me don't understand that. Like a lot of kids like me don't understand that. So yeah, I would really love for you to just dig into that a little bit.
Wow, there's a lot of good questions here.
Bhakti yoga is like kind of you're doing.
It's coming. Yep. It's coming.
So Bhakti yoga is like something you are doing everything. I mean, if you do something like if you're cooking food or if you're if you're doing something, so that leads to God. I mean,
you can sit
I mean, you can. I mean, whatever you do, it's like you do things, which leads towards God. I mean, if you're cooking or if you're doing something. I mean, Bhakti Yoga, it's like it's a way to Godhead. It's a way. I mean, it's a kind of a love, which leads you towards God. I mean, like an ecstasy, you can say.
Bhakti Yoga is more like a. How to say? You're asking me, okay, what is Bhakti? So the Bhakti Yoga, it's a process of growing a love for God. Okay.
Yeah, that's right.
So, for example, we say, okay, where does it come from, right? Like this, right? So, because the idea of all the Bhakti Yoga is that if we don't have a love for God, or let's say we don't feel the connection with God, or let's say some higher force in our lives, people are generally miserable and sad. Most of the cases. Because then, okay, this is very general. I mean, okay, maybe somebody disagree, and I mean,
no, I think
bless them, but I think that if you don't believe in any higher dimension in life, then your life is just about sex, eating, sleeping, and material things, right? Which is, I mean, material things can give us happiness, but it's temporary, right? It's like, you buy a phone and you're happy for that time, for a week, maybe a month, maybe, I don't know. After time, it doesn't make you happy anymore, right? Same as you're hungry, you can, oh wow, I'm so excited, I'm gonna eat this meal, right? Like you eat it and you're enjoying this, it's so good, after that you feel good, but after 3 hours you're hungry again, right? So it doesn't satisfy you. It's the same as like, anything that you want in this material life, you can get it, and it works for some time, but it doesn't bring you the ultimate happiness.
Alright, so this understanding of Bhakti and this understanding of Bhakti Yoga and this understanding of God for you, does it come from you, or does it come from someone you know is in a position to preach, or like, is it something that you've read, or does it come from within you? Is it like, is it your understanding and interpretation of word?
Yeah. So, if we recap everything that I've spoken to, I come from a point where, I was raised sort of Christian. So I was raised with the idea that God does exist. My family was not atheistic, but they were not like crazy Christians as well. We were just pretend Christians, what I call, okay, we just go to church once in a while and celebrate certain things. But I did not feel, I didn't see my parents being happy. I did not feel happy. And I was in so much suffering that I was like, okay, there cannot be no God, because whatever they say or whatever they're practicing in Christianity, they didn't work for me, right? Because, I was just depressed. So I was like, it just didn't make sense for me, right? So then again, I come to a point where I'm an atheist. I'm saying there is no God. There's only suffering. This life is meaningless, right? Then again, I go through certain experiences in my life where I experience something different, in some altered states of consciousness through practices of meditation, yoga, psychedelics. I have a glimpse into something which I cannot explain, right? So then I'm seeking the answers, I want to know what experience that I had, right, that I cannot make sense of, because there's nothing that I have known so far
that makes sense.
Nothing that makes sense, right? And then, through the books of yoga and all these different things and all, I find, when I start to seek, when you said, I don't know if God exists, right? So that's a good point to start, because, if you feel like there is no God, and you don't want to know Him, even if He is, right? Like, why would He come looking for you, He's not going to come looking for you. He has no interest in you, right? Like, you just, whatever you want to do, But if you come to a point where you're like, okay, I don't know if God exists or not, but let's say you come to a point where you do want to know, like I told you, I kind of had this connection, with the universe or whatever, but one day I came to a point where I was like, I was just curious to know, I was like, okay, maybe I just want to know. And then I read the Gita, and then in my heart, it felt like it was true, that's why I decided to follow and practice what's their method, because their method is a very simple method, so it's nothing really crazy. It's just about saying that we should dedicate anything that we do for God. So, this is the way of transcendence. So they say, instead of cooking for myself, because I need to cook everyday food, right? I cook for myself because I need to eat, right? But instead of cooking for myself, if I'm cooking for myself, I'm just thinking about what I need, what I want. This is ego, right? This is me, what I want. But again, as I said, I just eat and it doesn't make me happy. But instead of that, I cook for God, right? So I'm thinking, okay, like I'm cooking not for myself, but I'm cooking for God. I'm going to offer to Him because it's coming from him, so at least I can express my gratitude for the food that I have. So it makes me happy. The whole process of cooking food makes me happy because, you know, it seems like you're cooking for someone you love. If you're cooking for your girlfriend, let's say. Sometimes when I'm single, I'm so lazy to cook, right? I mean, I'm cooking for God, but still, in the end of the day, I'm thinking, okay, I'm cooking for him, you know, and I know he'll come back after work. I see him happy, you know, he'll be happy, and, you know, okay, if God exists, then maybe he'll also be happy if I offer to him, right? So, I mean, I just have to say...
That's a cool way to look about it. But I have two questions. You should come this side. Just come this side. Yeah, I have two questions which are about religion and which I would love for both of your perspectives to just to hear them out. One, do you think, like, let's put it an entity called God, right? And then do you think religion is a path to it, then like path towards God? Second, is it a good path towards God? Third, is it the only path towards God?
So, I mean, you can answer afterwards. What do you think? But I think that actually...
And different religions. Like, let's be open up religions.
we were
Krishna and all the cool
yeah.
people, like, you know, just Krishna, sure.
I mean, because I'm coming from
Jesus.
Christianity, then I got into Buddhism, which is technically not a religion, but people made it into some kind of religion and all, and then I ended up being Hindu or somewhat Hindu, I don't know. So, I mean... I don't think, I still say that I don't belong in any religion, and I don't like, because, I mean, what I saw in Christianity, and also if you look back in the history, it was very much to control people and used for politics as well. So I think that when I started to research and learn about different religions, and the more I got into spirituality, not religion, I started to see that underlying teaching on all these messiah like Jesus, Moses, and Buddha, and, you know, Krishna or whatever, they all taught love, harmony, respect for each other, helping each other. You know, that's what, in the end of the day, all the religions teaching the same thing. You know, that for us we should help each other, we should love each other, we should live in peace and harmony, right?
But do you think, okay, what's your...
That's I think that's the underlying message of any religion. But I think that people, you know, as you say, twist it and turn it around and use...
That was my fourth question, like, where do you think religion fucks up? But then I'll ask you that in the last one. So do you think religion is a good way to reach God, and is it the only way to reach, like, to have that sense of belonging towards God and stuff like that?
I think that definitely not, because as I said, I've never followed...
It's not the only one?
No, I think not. I think that, you know, I always say I feel like even in Krishna consciousness, you know, in the Bhagavad Gita, they say that everyone is an individual soul. So everyone is totally different, you know. So there's no one exactly like you know. Everyone had maybe there are people who had similar experience to you, but there's nobody who had identical experience as you, right? So I feel like there cannot be one way or one method, you know. There cannot be one diet for everybody, or, you know, everyone is different, everyone's body is different, everyone's mind is different. So for example, maybe for me this is, you know, Hatha yoga, for you maybe it's Bhakti yoga, for somebody maybe it's going to gym, you know, your gym can be also maybe your religion, you know. It's about, I think that, you know, it's about, you need to, you know, God has different way of speaking to everybody. For some people it comes through music, you know, I have many friends who are talented musicians or different creators, you know, artists, and they have their own, you know, again I say word God, you know, people don't like this word God, but, you know, whatever makes you feel connected.
But then, okay.
You know, I think that there's many different ways to...
I really like that answer.
Yeah.
But then, when I see this, like, you operate in this space of, like, meet a lot of religious people and all that stuff. Why do you think a lot of religious people have a hard time accepting that there might be other ways to reach God? Meaning that there might be other religion just as justifiably cool, or like whatever, like... I mean, why is it like so hard for religious people to understand?
I think
other religions might even.
In my opinion, I think is that because, you know, there's different when, for example, for me, how I came to religion was because of my direct experience. Okay, I had an experience, and I couldn't make sense of it, and I was looking for answers, and then, you know, I chose, you know, in everywhere there's some truth everywhere, but you know how to say. It must come from your heart, you know. So they also say that Krishna or God is sitting in your heart, this Paramatma within your heart. So it should come from your heart. But some people, they are just blindly following without any actual experience, and that's where you see that there are fights for religion and things like that, because these people have never had any kind of spiritual experience, They don't even know. There's so many people who are following, but they don't know what they're following, and
that happens a lot in India, I guess. Like, we're gonna do puja, like we don't know what it means.
We don't know why we're doing this, but we're doing this because everyone's doing that. And it's not just about this one religion or different religion.
Do you think, does that work? Does that work? Does that make any, if there is a God, which I don't know of, does that, like, does puja without intent make a difference?
Yes.
I don't think so.
It does.
I
mean, it's not about like when you have fully intention, then only it's gonna work. I mean, God just sees your, your love and your courage to do it. Because
without understanding.
Without understanding. Because this age, you see, it's like Swan Yuga is running right now. This 10,000 years. So at this point of time, I mean, it's really hard to serve God or to do anything for God. In early ages, it was really easy because we have time and we didn't have this technology or for anything, to divert our minds. So people were into God, and I mean, they were worshipping, and for them it was really easy to live like 1,000 years just to do meditation. And yogi people, they were not into eating much food. They just have one time diet, and they used to live like 100 years. So it's about, the time what you give, because in this yug, it's not about like what you can give. It's just about the time. Even if from 24 hours, if you give like your 1 minute or 2 minutes to God to worship Him, He'll be happy. So it's like,
do you think there's if I was to be devil's advocate on this,
good challenge. I like challenge.
No, but do you think that benefits the person as well? Let's put God out of the picture. Let's say God isn't there. Like, let's just take that. Right? Okay. Do you think that benefits the person, that prayer which is done without intent, benefits the person psychologically or physically or spiritually?
Yeah.
It does. Sometimes, because whenever we pray, we only say those things, what, we want Him to forgive or we want Him to give us, So, that's what we do, because if we made some mistake, we just say, oh God, please forgive us. Or if we want something, we just say, oh God, please help me. So, intensely, He's not helping us. It's just we are preparing ourselves to help ourselves, It's just that another way, because in this world, people follow religion. There are 3 kind of circles, I'll tell you. First circle is like when you go to see religion, they will say God is everywhere. So you will see God is everywhere. But the second circle, they will say that God is in everyone's heart, God made everything. So of course you are a God and you have God inside you and she has a God. So people seeing each other like this way, but they cannot cross to the third point because they think you and God is same, because God made you and He made you, so He gave you His powers as well, because you are His energy. So this people cannot go to the third part, because when they become a God, they don't need to worship anyone. So they are just in that circle, God is everywhere and God is in everyone's heart, so I am God. So they cannot reach that third circle, because once they get into that third circle, that God is in me and I am God. So, that game is there over. Then they don't need to worship anyone and they don't need anything. They will think that I am God and I am everything.
That's a really cool answer. Okay, so how do you reach that third circle? How does someone as dumb as me
you just need to meditate, you just need to look into yourself, what you are looking for and what actually you are desiring, what actually you aim for.
I just want to add one point. I think it's not about, I think nowadays religion is very untrendy, okay? Spirituality is trendy. So, how to say, even the word God is now not a hip word, okay? Yeah. So, I say that, it's more about, asking this question, are you truly happy? Like, are you truly happy within your life? If you feel like you're totally fulfilled and you're totally happy, then of course there's no need for you to seek God, right? I mean, why would you seek something?
Yeah.
But the point where, you know, what happened to me as well, when people start to go for meditation, yoga, religion, whatever, is because they feel on some level they realize that they're actually not happy and they're suffering and they're looking for relief, you know? Because what happens is that when we have health and we have money and have everything, we're in a position where I don't need God, I'm good, right? But the moment that you're sick or your member is sick and you cannot do anything, then we pray, God, please help us, you know, because we feel like we're incapable of doing something. You know, we're in a position where we can't do anything, right? Then suddenly people have the spiritual awakening. So unless you come to a realization that you are actually not entirely fully happy in this material life, and that this material life is not satisfying your soul, until you come to this point, you will not be interested in any religion or God. But again, it's not about joining the temple. It's not about worshipping deities or putting name or form of God. It's about finding that connection, that, you know, unique connection. It's not about like, you know, putting this name or this, how to say, form of God or anything, but it's about, you know, having that, like what happened with me, you know, I was talking to God like he was, my God didn't have any name. He didn't even have any form, you know, I was just talking to him like he's my best friend, to somebody in my mind, and that helped me to find relief, what he said, you know, how to say, like, you know, it made me feel like I'm not alone, you know, I'm not just here alone suffering, but the idea that maybe there's someone listening there or looking after me. I mean, it feels comforting, you know, it gives you certain relief of life, you know, and
I think Socrates was the one who said something very similar, and he was an atheist, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah.
So he said that he had a voice in his head which
like
helped
a higher
him
self.
communicate with himself.
Yeah.
Not, and I'm not sure. He called it a demon, I guess. But it's that demon or daemon, something like that. So someone who he could communicate with, not someone who will tell him what to do, but someone whom he would ask questions, and then he would ask questions back, and there was this questioning.
I really like the stories you made recently on Instagram.
That was
about, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's about, you know, but as I said, you know, as you said, you know, it's there in your heart. So, you know, when you're doing something wrong in your heart, you know, your mind might be telling you different stories and running different, oh no, it's okay, I'm justifying this and that, you know, oh, this is okay. But then when you're doing something wrong, you know you're doing something wrong. I don't need to open Bhagavad Gita or any religious book to know what's good or what's bad, right? So if you're in your heart, you feel like this is good and it's okay, it's right. I mean, okay, I'm jumping off the topic, but
okay, I wanna know that the third circle that you say that is so hard for people to come to or achieve.
What is the third circle? Sorry, can you just again? You were talking. Your first circle is the thing that God is everywhere. The second circle is that God is within
people.
you.
Within people. Third is like God is within me. I'm like, where the fuck is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
I am God.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's really hard to get, and the only you know way you can get it, you just need to do the self-realization and the meditation.
What kind of meditation? Like for me, meditation like that's meditation. I mean, how do you meditate?
I mean, you need to realize yourself. You need to see within yourself. I mean, what is your purpose of your life? Because who are you? That's you need to know who are you and
that
why
self-awareness journey.
Because it's a kind of a journey, you know. Because when you know yourself and you know your reason of being here, because of course you're here for a purpose. You're not here to make money or make this video or to do things. You have a higher aim, a higher purpose, right? But you're just working for it. So once you're ready, you will get that higher purpose, what you were working for all these years. So it's like you need to do the self-realization. It's not like you need to learn some kind of meditation or do some kind of things or make someone happy or you need to ask someone to tell you about this more. It's just your self-realization. We know everything. It just we just need to access it, right? We just need our brain is like a computer, it has all the folders and everything. We just need information. We just need to get into that information. We just need the access for it.
But as I said, everyone's journey is different. So I found it through yoga and meditation. But I see people get enlightened through different things. Like I mean, there's this Marie Kondo. I don't know. She wrote this book, The Magic Art of Tidying Up. And this was really interesting story. I mean, she did this TED Talk or whatever, and she was tidying so much. She was always looking like, she always felt like her house was untidy. She was always looking for things to get rid of. And one day she passed out from tidying up. And she said, I was probably the first person on the planet to pass out from too much, from cleaning up, tidying. She was always looking what to organize, what to get rid of, because she felt like it was always untidy. And one time, after the time she passed out, she awakened, and she felt like she saw everything with like a new perspective, like Ultra HD, and she heard the voice in her head.
It happened a lot of people with near-death experiences.
Yeah, and she heard the voice in her head, and she said, you know, look at things closer. Yeah. And then she had this realization that she was looking for things to get rid of, but instead she needed to look on things to keep, what was making her happy, you know. So and then she wrote this book, and she transformed people through this, you know, Marie Kondo method, and she's helping people to find happiness through tidying up, you know. So I see that, you know, this happens, this awaken, sudden spiritual and
so many people who have near-death experiences.
Yeah.
I mean, they like awaken. I'm like, it's so crazy that people have to almost die to start living.
Yeah.
That's a really weird thing.
Yeah.
But how do you not die and live?
That's right. Because when you follow this spiritual path, people say it's very easy. You can leave everything. You can just wear dhoti and have some little stuff with you, and you can just travel around. But it's not. It seems easy, but it's not that easy. Because you have to do everything on time. You're eating on time. You're sleeping on time. You're chanting mantras, and your devotion. Everything, it comes with time. But
did you have a breaking point in that journey of you trying to?
It comes because when you try to reach to God, there is one thing which is really closer to God is Maya. So it's like Maya is like it's Ma is called, Ma called not, and Ya is called this. So Maya is called not this. So it is like when you try to reach God. So God sent Maya. He's Gauri Ma. You must have heard Hindu demigods, right? So these demigods are like the Maya. They are the protector. So they see you first. They seize you whether you are ready or not. But when you think that you are ready to reach God, to attain His love and His grace, His everything, so He sends Maya. In roop of Maya, it could be anything, any material like money.
Yeah, and they say that the more you progress on your spiritual life, the less you want, the more they give you. Then the people get. You see rich people, like Jim Carrey, a good example. Some of these rich people, they also have like awakening, because the Beatles, same happened for the George Harrison.
That's actually very true. That happened with Jim Carrey. That happened with Keanu Reeves.
Because you see, the thing is that when you're in a position when you don't have. We're chasing after these things because we're thinking that this, because we're conditioned through Instagram, social media, that the happiness is in that degree. The happiness is in this profession. The happiness is in this amount, 1 lakh a month, 2 lakh a month, or this kind of car, this kind of wife, that many kids, this kind of house. But there's no end to that. And the people who are lucky enough to reach the highest, the top of the highest, like George Harrison, he actually got into Krishna consciousness. He said, all the people that I ever looked up and I thought it was like gods in my eyes, I was above them, like we were like the top and the top and the top, and he was like, I was still miserable, like I was still not happy. No money, no fame, no girls, nothing made me happy.
Yeah, the thing with money is that you want money till the time you don't have it. But when you have it, you don't want it. But the thing is, when you don't have it, you really want it because you want to survive. Because I mean, there's this basic line that you have to feed yourself. You don't want to suffer in misery. You don't want to sleep in a park. These are like basic stuff. If you have that kind of money, I mean, if you don't have that kind of money, you're really miserable. No kind of spiritual awakening will help you get be in a space where you can still not find it miserable.
Yeah,
that's true, but
sometimes it also pushes you,
because in our Hinduism we say bhajan jha bhojan va. I mean, you're getting my point. So where there is a kirtan, there is a food, So I mean, so that's what I'm saying, because where there is like a devotion of God, so there is food for everyone, and He's His devotee.
How do you find purpose when you? I mean, if you're looking for a higher purpose, for me right now, my higher purpose is for me. This is my purpose right now, like curating ideas. That's my purpose right now. Curating ideas. It's as simple as that. They're not my ideas. I'm just curating your ideas and people who come on this stuff. And while I'm learning, that's my purpose right now. I'm very sure that it's going to change and develop and evolve eventually. But then, you don't have a purpose when you're trying to survive.
That's right.
Right?
Yeah.
And spirituality then seems like a fucked up thing.
Yeah.
It looks like I don't want to be so spiritually awakened. I just want food and
But
family and normal
Yeah,
kind of
yeah.
thing.
But you get it, that's what I mean, that, you know, if your life does not have any spiritual dimension to it, be it whatever it is, whatever you choose that is your spiritual practices, I mean, your life, in whichever level, is still just surviving. It doesn't matter X, Y, Z amount of money that you have. If your whole life and existence revolves just about paying your bills, feeding your food, feeding yourself food or your family, and just doing job, I mean, you know what I mean? It's just surviving.
Just in
it's
a
just
different
surviving.
kind.
It's just, okay, maybe it's easy surviving,
Easy
it's
surviving.
thriving, let's say, but I mean, I know what kind of thriving is that.
But then
you know,
again,
like-
it comes to, is spirituality a luxury for like someone who's made it the bare minimum, who has crossed the line where he can survive? Is it a luxury, or is it something that just, I don't know.
Yes, it is.
You think it's a luxury?
Yeah.
What do you mean?
I mean, it's like, you know, when you attain God's love, because, you know, see what we are doing, working for. We are earning for ourselves and whatever we are doing for ourselves, you know. But when we start doing things for, like, you know, our God, I mean, for any kind of, you know, eternal love, we do it for Him. It's not just about Krishna or Jesus or for any other God. It's just about the eternal connection we have. If we start doing things...
Jesus is not a god, babe.
I'm just saying. I mean, it's a religion.
Jesus is just a messiah.
Yeah,
okay?
that's
It's
right.
like a Guruji, but
Tell
he's not
that
a
to
god.
a Catholic. Like, oh, he said my...
No, even his, you know, message was
he's
to
the
make
son of
peace
God.
and
Yeah,
love.
yeah,
Yeah, Son of God. Even his message was to just make love and peace. He never tell anyone to eat meat. Though he used to eat meat, but he never says anyone to eat meat. Even in Muslims, you know, they have this ritual ceremony wherein they cut goats, but that is just, you know, to serve blood to them, because they cannot serve. There is a story behind this, so they cannot serve a human blood, so they need this goat blood. But they made a tradition that, you know, now we're gonna eat meat because
might as well eat it.
Yeah.
Like it's being, might as well, like just taste it.
even in Quran, even in Bible, there is nowhere it's written that you have to have non-veg or something, because it's his creation, you know. If someone says that he loves God, that means he should love everyone he made, because you see this camera, this
But
technology,
again,
and
the point to make on this is like how to say about the non-veg thing, you know, that, you know, again,
we're jumping there. Knowledge and spirituality.
because,
Woohoo! Nice segue. That was a really good segue.
It's not how to say. Non-vegetarian and all these things is coming more to a point where, you know, Dharma and all is teaching about non-violence. That's where it's coming from. If there's a way for you to eat with, you know, making the least amount of suffering. Of course, even now they show that even plants, when you cut them, they're suffering. They still experience pain. So you're still inflicting suffering on nature. Yeah, you know, the plants, when you cut it, they also feel like descending neurons, like they have the electrical impulses, and they also feel pain. Trees and all, like they're all alive. Everything is alive.
Really?
Yes.
Yeah, that's right. But it's not about that you eat veg or non-veg. You know, it's just
It's about not inflicting unnecessary suffering on animals again. But then,
But
you know,
how is
there
one
are
suffering
places,
bigger than
but
one?
there are places in the world where there is no access to fresh vegetable, grain, and fruits and things like that at some parts of the year or something like this. So, you know, if we do this as a way of sacrifice for God, so we can continue, you know, if we're pursuing spiritual life, right? If we're doing this just to survive, if we're just killing just enough to survive because there's no other way, of course God is not going to say, oh no, you're going to go to hell now because you ate this piece of meat. No, it's not like this, you know? But it's just that it's saying that there's if there's other, you know, more sattvic way of eating, I mean, it's first of all, it's good for your mental health and because this is another topic.
No, being
but
vegetarian
everything is vibration, and again, you know, how to say the least. You know, when you kill an animal, obviously, especially it depends on what kind of environment it was in and how it was killed and all these things.
Yeah.
When you kill them, they release certain, you know.
I've heard Sadhguru say something very similar.
Yeah. So. Wow, nice. I'm Socrates and Sadhguru all in.
Yeah. Socrates meets Sadhguru. Right?
So, I mean, anyway, so what I'm trying to say is that, you know, everything is energy. So when you eat food, you know, it's being converted into your thought process. So the more meat you eat, the more we have aggression and stress and all these tendencies we take over from the animals, you know. So the plants and all, they consider more sattvic, more peaceful. It's more conducive for spiritual life. Okay, it just makes you, eating vegetarian diet makes you more shanti, okay, more peaceful, more calm, and there's a science behind it, you know. It's not like, oh, we're just hippies not killing animals, you know. It's not just about that. It's actually good for our bodies and good for our digestive tract and all these different subjects. Nice. But again, you know, I have to say, you know, God is sensible. That's what I'm trying to say, you know. Some people become fanatic, you know. They think that, you know, it must be this way and no other way. But, you know, God cares about your love, you know, about having that relationship, that love with you, you know. It's not about that you must dress that way, or it's about a way to attain that love for God. And they say if you come in that position where you have this connection and love for God, none of these rules apply anymore. Because you're on a totally different level, and you achieve the Baba, you know, this is the highest state when you're in love with God. None of these rules and regulations applies to you anymore.
Is Krishna a god?
Krishna? Yes. Krishna means all attractive. So if you say...
the preserver of this universe.
Do you think he looks like how religion portrays it? Him or it, or I don't know. What gender pronoun does he prefer?
I mean, he is male and female in the same, like, how to say, God. But God is beyond the male or female.
Is he like what religion tells us?
I mean, I'm not in that position where I have direct communication with him.
But
I'm not on that platform.
Okay,
so
let's
I don't know. Obviously, I can speculate.
Subjectively, not objectively. That's a stupid thing for me to ask to tell you to ask you. But for you, do you think Krishna is how Krishna is portrayed?
I don't know. Like I would like. It's very attractive, the image that they portray. And
what if he wears jeans?
Huh?
What if he likes wearing jeans?
That's cool. I think he's God. He can do whatever he wants. I'm sure he's hip.
Wears jeans, is that?
I like that. I like to have him on my podcast. So that is so cool. But yeah. My battery's about to end. I think we're gonna end it there.
Yeah.
Well, it was super fun.
Yeah, thank you so much for this conversation. So it was super fun. Thank you for having us on your podcast.
I am just more than happy that I could have both of you on this, because I just loved talking to both of you about the whole thing. It was a pretty long podcast, and I loved all of it. And my energy is still either. And are we shooting your podcast after this?
Yes, I hope so.
Great.
And you're gonna see Vishnu on my podcast, so I guess you'll add.
If you want to plug something right now, if you want to tell people where to find you and you can just do that right now.
So you can put my Instagram and maybe his Instagram if you feel like.
Maybe just tell it and then I'll put
it. So Greta Tigras on YouTube, Instagram, anywhere you can search me.
You can subscribe Krishna Anand Haridas.
Krishna Anand Haridas. That's such a cool name.
But that's still short.
Alright, so because a lot of people are listening to this on, not a lot, but a few people are on Spotify and podcast, so they won't be able to see your So Greta Tigras and
Krishna.
It's Tigras.
Yeah, Tigras.
Tigras.
Yeah.
That's a real name?
No, that's not.
That's not
my stage name. That means tiger in Lithuanian. It's
alright.
Spirit animal.
Awesome. Thank you so much for listening. In the next episode, we're gonna have another one of my really cool friends. She is amazing, and it's gonna be really fun. But for this one, thank you so much again.
Thank you.
And thank you so much for subscribing. Thank you so much for supporting the podcast and everything. So do make sure to like, comment, and all that stuff. I mean, I don't want to say it again and again, but I mean, Krishna would really like it if you subscribe. I mean, Krishna will be like, bro, that's my thing.
If you're gonna go back, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. Subscribe and like. Bye.